In this video, we're going to highlight some custom reports that you can use to help with acquisition. First is we're going to work with a report that Lunametrics had created called Metrics by Day of Week Name and Time of Day. We're going to go to the Google Solutions Gallery. We just click on this link and it'll automatically take us over here. And then we're going to import this custom report. At this point, we're going to select the view that we want it to be a part of, which I'm going to go ahead and use this one. And we'll go ahead and keep the name the same. We'll click on Create, and that will import our custom report. So now we see our custom report that's been imported. The very first thing I want to show you is exactly how this was built. So we're going to go back into the edit mode. Again, this is a great thing about custom reports is you can import custom reports that others have made and see how they constructed them and what they were doing. So in this case, this is our name. So we can change the name of this at any point in time that we want. This is the current name. Then you've got the different types of reports. Now in this case, they did a flat table report. So in this example, it will show us in this table the day of week name, and it'll actually show us the hour. So we've got the day of the week name, and then the hour, and then the numbers. So in this case, the numbers, the metrics, are the sessions, the page views, the average session duration, and the bounce rate. So if we click on Save, we'll go back into that report. And you can see there's our day of week name. So we've got Monday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday. And we can, of course, sort this if we like to see all the different Wednesdays listed together. We can expand out the rows. And you've got a lot of information that's here. And you've got hours. So we can see hour of day. So in this case, it was Wednesday at 0, which would be midnight. And again, set to the time that you actually have your analytics account set to. This is the time zone that it would pay attention to. Wednesday at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, all the way through for that a 24-hour day. So here's all of our Wednesday hours. And then we can see here's the number of sessions that occurred, the number of page views that occurred, the average session duration. So how long is the user actually spending on your site, and then your average bounce rate for that session as well. So here we've got Wednesday at midnight, 129 sessions. And what we're looking for really is patterns. You'll always look for the truth. So the truth is in the trend, the power is in the pattern. And that's what we would look for here as well. So if you can see sessions starting at midnight, and then as Wednesday progresses, you can actually analyze and you can see a pattern. So we start off with a little trickle of traffic in terms of sessions coming through, starts picking up right o'clock, the 6 o'clock hour, starts picking up a little bit. So we, instead of being right around 100, we're a little bit around about 100 and a half, almost 200 at times. And we see our peak kind of in the afternoon. And then by the late afternoon, it sort of drops down. But interestingly enough, there's a big spike that pops up again right in the evening hours. So in this case, again, the evening hours as defined by this particular analytics view. So here at looks like 8 o'clock on to about 11 o'clock and then up through midnight even. So 129 sessions. So that's kind of interesting to be able to see that during the day, right? In particular, not necessarily super early morning hours, but we've got sort of typical daytime hours that are set up here up until the afternoon, and then it'll drop down and then it picks back up at night. I think that's really interesting. Now, if we cover this across to page views, we can see the number of page views coming across. And you start to see that same sort of spike, but you see a massive increase here. Again, when we look at the trends and the patterns, you sort of see this massive spike that's in this case, the 1 o'clock hour. That's in this case around the 1 o'clock hour. You can see this big spike and then it drops back down. And even though we have a bunch of sessions coming through, these sessions that are coming through do not correlate to higher number of page views. So even though you've got a lot of people that seem to be coming in and giving visits, it seems like they're not as engaged. So let's see if this pattern continues. The average session duration. So we've got a couple minutes, a minute. As we come back up, it starts to get a little longer. That's great. Here again in this 1 o'clock hour, we've got that 3 minutes that are coming through. So quite a bit of activity, drops down to 2 minutes, and then we start seeing a little bit of spike up. But again, it sort of drops down a little bit, but still surprisingly some decent interaction here. And then if you look at bounce rate, so 50%, 40%, overall actually looks like, and this is really interesting, so you've got a little bit of a higher bounce rate here, right? And then the lower bounce rate, but not too terribly low. It drops down a little bit, but not too much. So you can see when people are active during the daytime hours, bounce rate does go down a little bit and then picks back up at night, which kind of correlates again to the idea that they're not seeing as many pages, so they're bouncing a little bit faster. So you've got an audience that's still coming in, maybe they're a little bit more curiosity driven here, and here they're trying to get work done on your site. And this report, again, is designed to give you an idea of the day that you're actually getting this, and then what the behaviors are throughout the day based on hour. So you have that information. Now, of course, even though we know the day of the week that they're coming in, so we've got the name from the day of the week perspective, we have the hours, we don't necessarily know where this traffic is coming from. So let's go back and we'll take a look at that. We can see that Avinash Kaushik here has actually created a report that we can use. We're going to find this report again here. So we're going to click on this little link, but this is the Visitor Acquisition Efficiency Analysis Report. So we're going to click here, and this will help us to import it into our view. We're going to select the same view that we used before, and we're going to keep the name the same in this case. We'll click on Create. And now we've got our report. Now, very quickly, I want to show you how this was built again, since we are talking about custom reports here. So here we've got the name of the report itself, which again, you can change at any time and completely customize to whatever you want to call it. Here we've got the type of report. So in this case, it's an Explorer report. This is the one you're probably a little bit more familiar with because it's the one that most of the built-in reports in Google Analytics are. Then we've got our numbers. So in this case, we've got the number of sessions, we've got the number of users, we've got the number of new users, and how many in this case have entered our checkout. Now this goal can be, when you import a goal, it'll be imported to the goals that were set up for this report, but it doesn't mean it's going to match your goals. So you need to change this to whatever your goals are. Then you've got your goal conversion rate, which is the overall conversion rate of all the goals that are happening on your site. And then you've got your per session goal value. So if you have goal values associated with your goals, you will see that here. Then you've got your dimension drill down. So we're going to start with source medium. Then when we click into source medium, it'll drop us into our medium categories. And from there, when we click through the medium, we'll actually see the campaigns. And in this case, there's a filter that's been set up to say only show us the device category of mobile, so this is mobile phones, and those who are living in the United States, or whose IP addresses were in the United States. That's the country of the United States. So mobile phones in the US by these drill down dimensions. So let's take a look at what this report shows us. And here we go. So now we can scroll down and we can very quickly see the source medium, so all the different brands of traffic and then the types of traffic those brands are sending us. And then we can see some activity. So we've got the number of sessions, and these again are the visits that are happening on Google Analytics, the number of users who are actually showing up on those sessions, the number of new users, so we can get an idea of which traffic sources might be bringing in new users versus more returning users or people who are already familiar with our brand, then the number of goals associated to whatever goal that you associated that report to. In this case, I've associated it to the goal of entered checkout. So we can see that when it comes to Google CPC, 366 sessions, 10 of them ended up entering the checkout and triggering our goal 4, which is again was entered the checkout process. Now the goal conversion rate is the overall goal. So it's all of the sum total of all your goals and the conversion rate. So for not just this one goal, but for all of the goals that you have set up. And then our per session goal value. Now in this particular view, we don't actually have any goal values that are set up, so we don't see anything here. It'll just show up for 0. But in your goal setup, if you associated a value of, let's say, $10 every time somebody entered checkout, then it would show up here. You'd see that goal value here as well. So in this case, if I click down now in our drill downs, we go to Google CPC, it will drop me into the medium, which in this case is CPC. And if I click further, it will show us our campaigns. So I'll drop down and we'll take a look at all the different campaigns that we're bringing in traffic. Now again, it's the aggregate, the top level is interesting, but the details where you actually segment down, in this case to the campaign level, that's where you can really find your insights. So in this case, we see the YouTube brand. So this AdWords campaign, this YouTube brand from Google Ads, this is creating a ton of sessions. It's bringing in a lot of users, most of which are new, but they are not really entering the checkout process. The bags, so in this case, the campaign for bags, not as many users, but if you look at the percentage that are new, so 34 to 54, so still a decent chunk, but not as many. There's a lot of returning users coming back, and you see that those users are completing the entered checkout process. You also see office apparel, same thing. So office apparel, completing the checkout process, completing checkout. And these other campaigns, not so much. So if you were looking at this campaign and you were managing for results, you might come to the conclusion or have an hypothesis that says, you know what, this YouTube brand, it's really good at generating traffic, but it's these other campaigns that are actually giving me the results that I'm looking for, which in this case would be entered checkout. And then you can also see that same pattern here. Remember, the truth is in the trend, the power is in the pattern. And we can see this really low overall goal completion rate. These other campaigns aren't triggering any goals at all. And remember, this is the sum total of all the different goals that you've got associated. So you've got bags, office, apparel, all triggering lots of different goals that are happening there. It shows a high engagement. And even though there's no per session goal value that we have set, if we wanted to, we would go back, adjust our goals, and actually put a goal value in there so we could further see those details. But even without that, you can still see pretty decent engagement when it comes to goals. And then we expand out to different dates. In fact, let's do that. Let's make sure this pattern holds. We're going to go to the last 30 days here. Remember, by default, Google Analytics will always do the last 7. We can basically see that same pattern sort of holding. We've got all these campaigns that are actually generating results, and these other campaigns, maybe not so much. So that might be something where you can use this traffic to get people aware of your brand, and then you start really retargeting based on these to close the sale. That's just one example of how you might use a custom report like the visitor acquisition efficiency analysis.
I would love to know how you're actually applying what you're learning to your own business. Do me a quick favor, leave a comment below. And of course, if you like topics like Google Analytics, you will absolutely want to be sure that you like and subscribe to the CXL channel. It's an amazing place, and every single time we do new videos, you'll be notified when you're on that list.